Do us a big favor, take a moment to subscribe to the United Nations of Horror right here on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us. Thanks so much, and now, let's get on with the show.
Welcome on, bienvenue. Welcome to the United Nations of Horror with your hosts, Mark and Jason. Hi, Jason.
Konnichiwa, Mark. O genki desu ka? And hello and o genki desu ka to our audience.
Oh, I've forgotten the response. Is it wakarimasan? Or am I getting it completely confused with something else?
I think I would just probably reply with, konbanwa or konnichiwa,
Konnichiwa, that's it. Konnichiwa, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, good afternoon. And konbanwa is good evening. So for our people who are interested in Japanese,
Okay, cool.
Which is suiting.
And talking of which, now we're weirdly staying on a certain theme, even though this is an entirely different, continent, country, and so on. We stay with dolls.
Yeah.
We're staying with dolls there. And this is The Vampire Doll from 1970, a Japanese horror film.
なんか聞こえないか？
風の音じゃない？
違う。誰かが泣いてんだよ。この屋敷のどっかで。やだ。誰です？なぜ隠れたりする？僕は見たんですよ、優子さん。
優子はもうこの世のものでは。先生、優子さんは本当に亡くなったんでしょうか？
死因は全身打撲による内臓破裂。
でも昨夜私、優子さんを見たんです。
何？
優子は死にました。でも信じられないことが起こったのです。信じられないことが。
Not on my radar at all. It was one you suggested, and I was like, yeah, let's give it a go. I've never even heard of this, though I have heard of the Bloodthirsty Trilogy, which I think this is the first one of.
Indeed.
But I don't know anything about
them. I
mean,
basically, the Bloodthirsty Trilogy is a series of kind of Dracula-like films made by Toho Studio, the studio that does Godzilla and pretty much some of the best Japanese films in the industry. So, and these are all from the 1970s.
And this was 1970 exactly. They wanted some of that Hammer money, I feel like.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. An interesting film. Really nice film stock, which Toho usually do anyway, right?
Yeah, beautiful.
Well, once you get past the Godzilla and Return of Godzilla, then they start using better film stock. And towards the late 60s, they were using excellent film stock. And this is within that realm. Interesting film. I did
Yeah.
not know what to expect, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. Um, Structurally, it felt a bit like Psycho in that someone kind of you expect to be the protagonist is not the protagonist quite early, quite
Yeah.
often. Anyway, I should avoid spoilers until we kind of give our high level views, and then we can get into it. This is the first watch for me. I enjoyed it greatly. It
Nice.
reminded me an awful lot of not so much Hammer, but sort of AIP, the Roger Corman Poe cycle
Oh
in
yeah,
many
I can
respects.
see
And
that.
I'll explain that a bit more when we get into it. But it kind of had that vibe rather than a Hammer vibe. Though it's kind of weird seeing a Japanese film where there was so many trappings of European, British and European house design
Right.
and things like that. It was really odd to see that.
Yeah, I
Um,
I can talk a little bit about the history of that. The 1960s Hammer horror Dracula was very, very popular in Japan. And I mean this even carries to today in Japan. But I mean, if you look at a lot of the kind of the films like this from around that period, certainly huge influence from Hammer. And even later on in the 80s, we get Akumajo Dracula, known more to Westerners as Castlevania. Also very, very influenced by Hammer horror. The director of the game Castlevania, he put his name as like I think it was Trance Fisher, for the director Terrence Fisher. It's just so I mean, huge kind of influence from Hammer horror, which I think Hammer horror has definitely influenced the world of horror, especially today more than ever. But in Japan, it really hit with them, and so you get into the 70s, and they've had the horror of Dracula, as we call it in the U.S., and they said, oh man, we really like these films, so that's why you get kind of the European style in the series of films, and uh, you know to my knowledge, these are sort of the most European kind of British influence I can think of in Japanese horror films.
yeah, it's very unusual. I mean, it was still distinctly Japanese
Oh yes,
horror, right? I mean, you can trace this back to like Kwaidan, had a similar look. Yeah, so it was still, but it was just striking the house stuff we saw. It's like that looks like European portraits, not Japanese artwork, things like
right.
that. And
Yeah,
then as they go through the house, I'm like, oh, it is they're deliberately doing it. We have to say, I have to say also, this film also went under the title Legacy of Dracula. That was one of its several titles. So they were like plugging into it. And the other two films have got Dracula in the title too, haven't they?
they do. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
no idea if Dracula's involved in those.
Well,
To
yeah, because this one in particular has nothing to do with
do with
Dracula. I think
Dracula.
there's a little, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's more of a case to be made for the other two. But I think, as far as the kind of general plot goes, I'll just say I think this is probably the best, although I like the other two films a lot in this
Yeah,
series. So,
yeah. So I'd say good one. Now, the reason I mention it felt more like the Poe cycle that Roger Corman did than sort of Hammer is I find that Hammer films, the plots progress. And I don't mean that in a negative way. What I mean is some incident happens and then we move on and we're in a different, things are happening. Whereas with the Corman cycle, they're often in a spooky place, right? And weird things happening, and then something scary happens, but then we're still in the same place, and there's still the same setup. They may have discovered a tiny bit more, but it's not moved on as such. You know what I mean? And this is kind of similar. It's not quite there, so that's why I was thinking, this reminds me of
yeah,
AIP.
yeah,
Um,
I can definitely see that
yeah.
comparison for
The
sure.
other thing, it definitely reminded me of a Japanese horror film called Kuroneko about ghosts, ghost story. And in
That's
many
one I
respects,
want to see. Yeah.
oh, it's a good one. Oh,
I,
it's very good.
yeah, I
It,
know of it, but for what, I've watched a lot of Japanese horror, but I haven't seen that one. But sorry, Mark, didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
that's all right. That's all right. It had a similar vibe to that. Though I did appreciate this. I have to tell you, I recognize the first actor we see, um, who is, hold on, let me get his character name, Kazuhiko Hiko, right? I
Indeed,
recognized him
yes.
straight away because he's kind of famous among school children of my era because he was the lead in a really successful series called The Water Margin
Oh,
that
was he?
broadcast in
Okay.
the UK. He was the
And
lead. He played a character called Lin Chun, and it's based on a classic, one of the four great sort of pieces of early Chinese literature, the Water Margin. It's in effect a kind of Robin Hood story. A group of rebels are hiding in the water margins of a place called Lanjianpo, and there's 108 of them, and they're believed to be the reborn spirits of 108 heroes from an earlier era, right? And
oh,
they're
that sounds
fighting a
cool.
corrupt government, right? They're fighting, and it was a cool, great series because each week you'd meet a different hero doing their thing, and they'd all be quite distinct. The funniest one was there was a guy who looked a bit like, is it Don Knotts? Don Knott,
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
done us.
Waverley from Freeze Company. He looked a bit like him, but Japanese. And he wore like a leopard skin or a tiger skin, sort of over one shoulder, a bit like Fred Flintstone, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he was known as the Tiger Killer. He killed a tiger with his bare hands. This skinny little guy. And
That sounds
that
right
was
up my
one.
alley.
Right, you'd love this series. I
Oh,
bet
yeah.
you'd love. There's only 26 episodes, but that the guy in this is the lead in that. So I instantly knew him. I thought, oh my god, it's Lin Chun. Is what I said. But
That's
yeah,
great. Yeah, I know I had
I,
seen him in something before as well. I was trying to place it, but he's been in a lot of stuff over the
always been
years.
in loads of stuff. When I looked into it, he was the leads in all sorts of Japanese TV, and he's been in some. I think one of his last roles was he was in 47 Ronin in the
Oh,
90s.
was he? Oh,
He
wow,
was
that's a
in
great
that.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's very
Well,
good
you know
in
what? I
this.
shouldn't say that's a great film. It's a good film.
It's a good film.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. It starts with some mystery, doesn't it? Of like it goes to his fiance, and we find out she died 2 weeks before
Yeah.
in a landslide, and then it just gets more mysterious. He sees her at one point. So you're thinking, is this a ghost story? Is it what's going on? And it's basically a restless spirit story, isn't it?
Yeah,
Essentially.
definitely. And there
Okay, we
are
better
earlier.
declare spoilers here. Actually, I've
Yeah,
just realised.
absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So, spoiler warning, if you don't want to
Yeah.
have this spoiled, maybe pause, check out the film and come back to it. I think I at least I can say I would recommend it, Mark. How about you?
Yes. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
There's some very striking moments. It's not very long, even. It's 70 minutes. It's just over 70 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
very
moves at a
quick.
fair crack. It's mostly in one location. Well, that's not quite true because they go into town and stuff, but it's mostly set around a house
Yeah.
and sort of something weird and a dark secret. It's very Japanese that way, in that it's about family secrets as well as everything else.
Yeah, they love
Um,
that in horror films for
they
sure.
do. So yeah, big recommend for both of us, I think.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, he turns up, and the mother and the servant who can't speak, which I don't know why it made me think of Manos Hand of Fate, which is like the worst possible thing you could compare any horror film to. But it kind of felt like that with the sort of servant sort of grunting about. There was a bit of old
Yeah.
Dark House about the whole
I
thing as
was
well, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of who he reminded me of, was the
Uh,
character from the old Dark House.
yeah, Boris Karloff's character in the old
Yes.
Dark House,
Yeah,
yes,
I can't think of the
because he was
character's
kind of
name.
strong and kind of a bit intimidating, but he was sometimes appeared to be trying to be kindly, but it wasn't really working.
Yeah, he
Bits
wanted to
like that.
fight everybody, it seemed like,
Yeah, yeah, it did.
He
Yeah,
definitely was very protective of the family.
yeah. And essentially, this man, Kazuhiku, he can't believe it. He's in shock basically, and the mother is
Yeah.
sort of. Now I'm trying to remember. Were they trying to make him stay, or I couldn't work out if they were trying to make him
Well,
stay, or
I
whether that it was just unfortunate. What the Well, and also the follow up couple, their car just not working. Is this a setup or is this
Yeah.
bad
I
luck?
think excuse me, I think a lot of it was just because of the terrible storm outside that he ends up
Yes.
staying. Because I love how the film does start out, again like the old dark house on a dark and stormy night with the
Yeah.
taxi driver and then he gets the bad news and
So many
he ends up
films start like
staying.
that. Again, Old Dark House. Exactly how
Yes,
the Old Dark House starts, right? But there's
exactly.
lots of other films which start with that kind of premise. Quite unusual and interesting horror films often start with this sort of premise. So yeah, and this was one of them for me. Anyway,
Yeah, and of
um,
course they have the meal together with
they have
the
to,
mother. Now the
yeah,
mother, to me, she just I guess the most striking thing probably you first notice about her is the scar on her neck, right?
scar on her neck. Yeah.
Um,
Um, and we find out there was a family tragedy, weren't there? That someone went through the house and killed everyone, except the
yeah.
mother and was the daughter away? The daughter was away.
The daughter wasn't born yet, I believe. I think
I
the
wasn't born
daughter
yet.
the daughter
Oh,
was
of
born.
course.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
she's
part of the plot.
born
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, 9 months later, of course,
yes.
and
And
yeah.
and so something horrific happened to this family, and for some reason, the daughter, even though she wasn't born, has born a guilt and a hate. She also she hates to be because isn't the suspicion? I was a little confused here. Was the suspicion the father of the family was the killer and killed
Well,
themselves? I couldn't work it out. That bit kind of confused me.
so
It
I
didn't really detract from the enjoyment, though. Having said that,
Yeah, I mean, they don't really say. I mean, I know they mentioned that she hated the people that said that she came from a murderer, like the people. I know that was mentioned, but I mean, it's obviously she didn't know her father, so I think maybe it's sort of insinuated that maybe you know, uh, she has this hatred, maybe because she didn't know her father. I mean, now
yeah.
they don't specifically say that. Let me say that,
Well, what
but
they do say in the subtitles is, and this is a Japanese film. We didn't watch the dub, did we? We watched the subtitle version. It does say the words "she hated being known as a killer's daughter" or
oh
something
yes,
like
yes.
that, right? So that's what confused. It's like, so the father's the killer, and they've hidden it up.
Yeah, now
Someone's,
the father was the killer as it well we'll get into
yeah, well,
that,
yes, but
but yeah, but a lot of that is a lot of the ending I will say feels almost like rushed. I felt like it's like aha, like we're
It's
gonna hit you with
it's
this
like
and this
it's meant
and
to be a
this.
shock ending, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the only people that survived were the mother and this servant Jen, who's called Jen. Um, I believe.
yeah,
Or
I believe
Genzu.
so.
It says here on Wikipedia, but in the subtitles they was referred to as Jen. Um, so
Yeah.
he kind of he sees the girl. He also he's bought her a doll. Um, Now it's interesting. The doll he brings has kind of golden eyes, and when we see the girl, sometimes her eyes turn kind of a weird gold color.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love, I guess, whatever contacts
really,
they were
really
using.
creepy. Yeah,
Oh,
creepy
big
effect,
time.
man. And also,
Yeah.
she's got like red blood tracks up one arm as well. We do see that, and she kind of looks pale, quite pale. There's one scene where they're outside and he's facing her, where it almost looks like she's glowing from the inside, and she isn't. I think they've just used lighting to try and give a special effect because you can actually see a glow on his face while he's talking to her. Right? It's
Yeah,
almost like
yeah.
light from her is causing. I thought that was really cool.
I did too.
Actually,
Very, very
yes,
ghostly, very haunting.
yes.
And I will say that, it's interesting in this film too, because, they say it's like almost like a Dracula film, but I definitely see it as more of a ghost story. In fact, they never refer to her as a vampire or even Kyukitsuki, which is the Japanese term for vampire. Um, I don't know. I don't think there's a specific term they use for her, at least not that I heard or
They
understood.
occasionally use the word vampire and they talk about drinking blood, but the
Yeah, that's
implication is
true.
she's not predating humans because we find birds, for example,
Right.
um, butchered.
Yeah.
bloody and left dead. So it's and you never see blood on her lips or anything like that. It
Yeah. Did they ever
though
use the?
there is one bit where you see a guy has been attacked on the neck though. You do see that.
Yeah. Did they
Um,
ever specifically use the word vampire to
there
describe her
is
though?
one or two uses, only a
Okay.
couple,
Yeah.
but it feels much more like a vengeful. It feels almost like Ringu kind of
Yes.
territory,
Yeah.
right? Than
Absolutely.
anything else. As does Nureneku as well, actually. So there is that, and I think some of the stories in Quieter. No, I haven't seen it in so long. I can't remember. We'll have to do that film sometime. It is a long one.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours, but there's like 5 or 6 stories in it, and they're really solid, and it
I would.
looks great.
I'd love
But
to
I
cover that one.
we'll
Yeah.
do that sometime soon, I think. Um,
Absolutely.
while we're in this space, and we should just do a Japanese month or two, maybe.
I agree. Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
I
it
mean,
would be fun.
Japanese horror is just, I'm
Yeah,
getting off track here, but it's so rich, filled with
I really
so many great
love
films.
Onibaba, for example,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
kind of
Great.
horror stroke thriller. It's not quite horror, but it's got plenty of horrific. It's horror adjacent for sure. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, we covered, well, actually, I wasn't on that episode, but you guys covered Onibaba
oh, we
early
did. I've
on
forgotten
UNH.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
we did.
one of
Yeah.
the first films we covered, in fact. I hated that
Wow,
I
I'd
couldn't
forgotten
be
that.
for that episode, but I had prior engagements that I couldn't get away from, unfortunately. But
I mean,
I hated to miss that episode because, I love Japanese horror film. Just
yeah, I
Japanese
mean,
film in general.
yeah, me too. I some of my favorite films are Japanese. In fact,
Yes, mine as well.
all sorts. Um, so yeah, this looks great. It felt like a really coherent, spooky story, and it delivered well. The sort of basically what happens is it's kind of a crash cut in terms of we see the boyfriend kind of going around the house and encountering the girl, and then we see an encounter where they're quite close, and then it cuts to a girl waking up, right? And I think
Indeed.
she has a bit of a nightmare about her brother. Basically, it's the sister of this character, and her boyfriend, or maybe no, yeah, it's her
I
boyfriend.
think it's her
They drive
boyfriend or
out
her
to the
fiance.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, they drive out to the house and sort of ask her, and he says, "Oh," and I can't remember what they say about him, but they meant I think they say he was there.
Yeah,
Um,
and they find out at the gas station that Yuko has died as well. So they're,
yes,
they
so they know ahead of time, don't they? And
yeah,
they're saying, "I bet he didn't know," but also she does find while they're kind of. And I'm trying to remember now whether they denied he was there or not. But basically, she finds the doll that he took to give to his girlfriend, which has
yeah,
these weird golden eyes, right?
indeed. It's
Um,
very distinctive.
yeah. I mean, the title of the film is odd, The Vampire Doll, because the vampire isn't a doll, but there is a doll in it that looks a bit like her, but unintentionally.
Yeah, and she does sort of look doll-like, almost that
She
kind of
does, yes.
porcelain effect you get when, when someone has died, in effect. I mean, obviously with what happens with embalming and things like that, maybe that's part of the title. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, Mark.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm not sure. But it's fine. I mean, it was also as mentioned already, Legacy of Dracula. And it was also called The Night of the Vampire. And it
Yeah.
kind of all happens in one night, so that's quite a good title.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it
Um,
works.
so yeah, and then this couple then start snooping around, but they start to get more and more. They find out that how she died and who was at the scene, and they actually go see the doctor who was at the scene, who talks a bit about it. He goes, she was beautiful on the outside. It was all internal. All of what killed her was internal injuries. Um, but then they find out from a bloke. Oh, actually, no. She decides the sister decides she wants to go back and leaves the boyfriend in the road. Um, but then a bloke just rocks up and says, "Hey, do you want to know a secret?" And he mentions he actually they didn't cremate her, and everyone's surprised. He's very surprised by it. So I guess cremation is the usual course of events in Japan.
Yeah,
Um,
it typically is. I was actually surprised that she even had a grave because
yeah,
not always, but many times you find sort of like almost like a little shrine dedicated, to the person's loved one who has passed on, rather than a grave. So
Yeah,
I found that interesting. And I had just assumed like, oh, she was buried anyway, but we find out, yeah, that's not the case.
yeah. So, well, the guy that says I buried her, he casually offers to go dig her up again, right? Which is weird. He
Yeah, and
does,
also
and
too.
they both go there, and they go there, open up, get to the coffin, open it up, and a dummy basically that looks like a springs out, which is weird. Um, and indeed, it freaks out the gravedigger, and he just runs off, and then gets butchered in a field
Yep,
with
he
blood around his hand. We don't see it, but it happens, right? It
I
happens.
love the
And I'm not.
scream, like the off-camera scream is so good here by that actor.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
great in that role.
yeah.
He seems like just kind of a sketchy fellow, but man,
He
I
is
felt I felt
somewhat sketchy.
yeah, I felt bad for him when he died just because of that yell. I mean, it was so good. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
There's some other elements to this film that I hadn't mentioned. Like, for example, there's one point where the original guy is kind of knocked out and he kind of comes to consciousness. He sees his girlfriend Yuko, then he closes his eyes, opens them again, and the mother's standing there. So you're wondering, is this a mother-daughter sort of horror story? And though it is, it isn't they're the same person or anything like that. It's nothing like that. But that
Right.
element, it did remind me of Nuraneku. There's kind of elements to that in there. So the Doctor becomes a character in this. Um, and the girl gets restrained. Basically, the girl's in there and the mother's leading around, but then locks her in a room. And when the
Yeah.
doctor turns up, he says, "Yeah, you were acting hysterical. She didn't know what to do, so we'll give you something to calm you down." And the girl's resisting, but Jen comes in, the manservant, and holds her down while the doctor forces it. It's all very unpleasant.
Yeah,
It's
that's where
all
I was
very.
like, okay, things are not right with the doctor here.
Yes. Um, and then later on, we see Jen attack the fiance, right? By a cliff, almost throwing him off a cliff, but the fiance managed to overpower him and throws him off the cliff. So yeah, there's some death and destruction here. So the boyfriend goes back to the house. Then it all comes out, doesn't it? It all comes out. The
Oh,
doctor's
yes.
there. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if we should spoil this. I mean, this is the full spoiler at the end, but the way it turned reminded me of, those what are they called? Those Italian films, like
Oh,
slasher movies.
like
The
the
Giallo,
Giallos kind
Giallo.
of, yeah.
Yeah, the endings were so weird and came out of left. It reminded me of Giallos often end
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way, right? You
that's
just
a
don't
good
know.
comparison.
They
Yeah.
come out of nowhere. And this kind of did. It was a way of wrapping it up, but it was very odd. Um,
Yeah, I thought
uh,
so too. That just so many like reveals almost at once, The only thing that's kind of revealed are that I guess you could say, oh, the doctor's a little sketchy is, he's talking about the war when they first meet him when they go to his office and
yeah,
he says like, yeah, I knew a soldier who died and he said something along the lines of, he wanted to take the sea home and then they see him later on, all the
yeah. Oh,
soldiers
I've
see him
forgotten that
at the
stuff. He
sea.
says all
Yeah,
of us saw him, not just
right.
me.
All of
All
them.
saw
Yeah.
him.
And then
So
he faded into
indicating
the water.
because the girl starts saying you're never going to believe this, but I think she may be a ghost or something like that. And he goes, "Yeah, I believe it,"
Yeah.
and he
And the doctor
explains why.
mentions he mentions he dabbles in the occult as well, or has no, I think
Yes,
he says
he
he's been
does.
reading up on the occult.
He,
So
he he goes, I'm not an expert. It's not my field, but I've been
right.
reading up on it. I think he says
Yes.
something like
That's it.
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so essentially, the way it all precipitates, this is uh, a historical family curse, if you like. The Doctor also talks about the family being cursed, doesn't he? At one point, a historical family curse that has led to a death and a restless spirit, in
Right.
effect, which is precipitated into some sort of vampire, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
I should mention the Japanese title, and I just realized this, Mark, reading the Japanese title, which is Chio ningyo. And ningyo is one thing they do refer to her as, which, typically like I say, when they say vampire in Japanese, they'll say kyuketsuki. Uh, ningyo is like, I think it refers to more like a mermaid typically, which is
A mermaid,
kind
interesting.
of
Yeah, I can see it.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the word here.
I
In
mean, what she really is almost like a wraith, right? It's like a
exactly.
vengeful ghost,
Okay,
right? That only
so
exists for the vengeance.
they're saying this translation says a mermaid-like creature, often translated as human fish. So
Okay.
interesting. So it can also be depicted as as a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Japanese ningyo can be depicted as grotesque with features like monkey's face, fish scales, and a voice like fluke or skylark. So interesting. I'd like to read up more on the ningyo legend here, but I
Now
did
that's
recognize.
interesting because early in the film,
No,
sorry, I cut
go
you off.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Earlier in the film, there's like a weird wailing going on, and the mother says,
Oh
"Oh, that's
yeah,
the wind. That's the people think it sounds like a woman wailing, but it's just the wind." So it's wondering if this Yuko was actually calling to her fiance and trying to entice him, which is mermaid-like, isn't it? Well, sirens certainly.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Hmm.
really enjoyed this film. That's all I can. It looked good. It was colourful. The
Yeah, beautiful.
subtitling seemed to be appropriate. Sometimes the subtitling doesn't really match how they're acted, but it did for me in this case. It all kind of made sense. It was a weird crash ending, wasn't it? It
It
was a
is.
weird
That's
crash
yeah.
ending.
That's kind of my
Um,
only criticism of it, really,
yeah,
is sort of the crash ending.
it was almost like, right, we finished all that we need to do. Let's just end. It was a bit like that. But the actual moodiness of it was great. And some of the shots there was a few where it was like, woo,
Yeah,
without
yeah,
being particularly, gross or anything like that. They're just freaky imagery
yeah.
that
Very
worked quite
creepy.
well. Yeah. And
Yeah, I love.
Quaiden's got similar imagery, as does Onibaba and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Onibaba, that's probably one of the earliest Japanese films that I've seen, and I can say, yeah, you definitely kind of see that influence, um, from probably earlier Japanese horror in this, and it's
and you can see how things like this have influenced Ringu and The Grudge and things like that, right?
certainly. Oh yeah, absolutely. Which I
Um,
mean, Ringu is still one of my favorite horror films, as well as The Grudge. And actually, I even like the American versions of those films too.
yeah,
Which I mean, I still prefer the Japanese versions, but I think they're certainly serviceable. So yeah, I mean, I think this is really strong as well. I'm right there with you. And definitely old dark house vibes for me. Like that atmosphere of the old dark house is really what I get from the vampire doll, with the house, the storm beginning, so I get the same kind of vibes, the same sort of feeling when I sit down and watch this, so to speak. And I
yeah.
love that.
What I liked about it is you never quite knew what to expect next, in a good
Yeah.
way. It was kind of, oh, she's going to turn up again soon, but how and where? It was just odd seeing a European looking house in the middle of the Japanese countryside. It was so odd, and no one commented on it. And I thought, well, I've seen a lot of Japanese films, but I've never seen a house that looks so totally European with portraits on the wall, you
Yeah.
know, and things like that. And some of the portraits looked like sort of Caucasians as well. They weren't Japanese people, so that was odd too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she mentions I know her husband was a was it a dignitary or something in America, but like
Okay.
they weren't like European themselves, which is why the Caucasian, they almost look like Spanish people in the paintings. I was like, this is kind of odd.
Yes, yes, they were
Um,
European looking rather than British necessarily, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
ringlets and things like that and stuff like that. But yes, yeah, a solid film.
Yeah, I agree.
Unfortunately, I forgot to post we were covering this, so we haven't got any feedback about this one. But it's
Yeah.
kind of fun that we're sticking with a doll as a theme here, even though it's kind of nebulous compared to the material. There's a
Right.
broken doll, referenced a few times. That's about it. But yeah, I thought it was well acted and it felt quite well written, apart from the ending. But to be honest, I don't think this is, we got to end this, what we're going to do. I feel like they were definitely building to the ending we got. It just, I think maybe it was well done enough. We were just so surprised that it felt like, is that just a cursory ending? It might be
Yeah,
that. I'm not
yeah, it
quite sure.
really it could be. Now this is my second watch, but it had been so long, probably at least 3 or 4 years since I had seen this. So, I remembered I remembered the ending, but I didn't remember it kind of going as quick as it did, I guess. So, I don't know. I'd like to watch it again
Yeah,
sooner and kind of see how it
yeah.
holds up for me. But I enjoyed it again for sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of interesting to see how other cultures take on the monsters that we're familiar with, right? Vampires and so on.
Absolutely.
It just
Yeah.
seeing it from a different, like V from Russia is a completely different thing to sort of some of the stuff we get from America or France or Britain, or it's kind of really interesting to see that. And Japan has got a great film culture, and it's sort of nice to immerse in that, really.
Absolutely. I agree
Yeah.
with you 100%. And, like I say, I need to catch up on Japanese horror because I've kind of been a little slack with it, but it's definitely one of those genres, that I
I
really
suggest we
enjoy.
do Quiden soon.
Yeah, I agree. We
We
really
should
need to
try
do
that.
that one.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool because it's got several stories too. So it'd be fun to discuss those,
Yeah,
um, and
absolutely.
compare it with this as well. So that'd be cool.
Definitely.
Okay, I think I think we've chewed the gum on
Yeah, I
this.
think so too. Should we rate this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All
Or
right,
shall I go?
I'll
What's up?
I'll go first. I will give it a solid 3 out of 5. I love this one.
Yeah.
Like well shot, great story, as you say. And there's not much more I can add to it. Just also I got to mention the music is cool too. I like the
Oh
music. It's
yes, I thought the music was really good. I'd forgotten that. Yeah, it was
yeah,
appropriate.
yeah,
Sometimes Toho can do crashy and bombastic, can't they? But a bit like
absolutely.
Hammer in that
So
respect, but
true.
not so much in this. Yeah, yeah. I would give it 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. It wasn't scary. It was creepy. It was creepy, and there was a few times it's like ooh. But I wasn't scared as such, I wasn't like, ooh, wasn't one of
Yeah,
those.
same here. Yeah, same here.
Right.
I agree, but it's atmospheric, very atmospheric.
Very. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we wrap it up?
Yes. Yes. Take it
All
home.
right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate you very much. You can find us wherever you get all your fine podcasts, including Spotify. You can also find us on YouTube now. So just go to YouTube and look up United Nations of Horror Podcast, and we'll be the first one that comes up. If you want to interact with us, come join us on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/UN of Horror. So join us, one of us, as we like
One
to
of
say.
us. Yes.
So, Mark, thank you so much. And thank you to all our listeners. Until next time, I'm Jason. Bye from me.
And I'm Mark, and bye from me.
Until next time on the United Nations of Horror.
The United Nations of Horror is a podcast about all things horror. From thrillers of yesteryear to today's modern horror, we are here to present fun and intelligent conversation about the genre films we love. Join us and please help spread the word about the United Nations of Horror podcast and videocast to horror fans across the globe. Find the podcast on all fine podcasting services. Join us on Facebook by simply going to facebook.com and entering in United Nations of Horror. You can also find us on YouTube by going to youtube.com and searching for United Nations of Horror podcast.